everyone. Welcome to the Codependency Show. 2020, a new year for all of us and a new decade. So I'm hoping that you've all done well over Christmas. I hope that you got to see some of the videos I put out about coping over holiday times. Sometimes these times are not always easy for all of us. I know it seems like out there it's happy families, etc., etc. Sometimes that's not the case. So that's why I did the videos, to help people through, and also why I have the emotional hotline. So if people are struggling and just don't know where to go, then they can contact me and just have a one-off session in the emotional hotline, just so I can help them, settle them down, and just help shift them to at least halt or stop what's going on before they keep spiraling and spiraling. So as I said, we're into a new year and a new decade, so lots of work for all of us to be doing. So what I'm going to do is carry on from our previous videos before Christmas, and we're reading from I don't know whether that's the right way around for you, the Emotional Sobriety book, the book I wrote. Please, if you're struggling in these areas of codependency, number one, this stuff just won't go away. I promise you of that. I tried everything to avoid it, to look away, to sidestep it. So if you can, get a copy of this book. This is the reason I'm working from this book, is because it's the body of the information. It's a practical book. It's not a big book. You'll see it's just a small book, because I can remember when I was at my lowest points, I would never have been able to, if someone had given me a big thick book, I just couldn't have even contemplated how to get through it. Even if you read just one paragraph a day, precisely while we're just going through this bit by bit by bit. So happy new year to you all, and let's get started. So I'm going to go back to the reason why I wrote this book, the reason behind the book. So the number one reason I've written this book is for myself, to keep myself sober. Sobriety is a way of living. It's not just a you do the work and it's finished, if you know what I mean. And it gets better and better, and don't think, oh, you have to do all this work before you start seeing results. You start seeing results as soon as we start making little changes. We start seeing results, and then that gives us the evidence to keep going and the motivation to keep going. So I made the decision to write this book because I know this condition. Codependency kills. I absolutely know that. It's a fatal condition, that it kills. It's no different from heroin or ice or any other addictions. It's just that it's so under-recognized and the awareness isn't out there about it. And usually it's codependency that brings us to, if people have substance abuses or other addictions, it's the codependency underneath it that is actually driving it, hence the need to go underneath and do the work. So if you're reading this book, I ask you to consider your emotional sobriety becomes your highest priority in your life. My emotional sobriety is the highest priority in my life. I go to that first. How do I feel about going to a situation? How do I feel about making a decision? How do I feel about making a phone call? And also, if I've made a phone call, on that note, if I've made a phone call to someone, when I get off the phone, how do I feel? How does that make me feel? We need to learn to think, instead of what do I think up here, to how do I feel? Because our emotions tell us, and they tell us the honesty. And if you're like me, for many, many years, you haven't listened to your emotions and gone the other way. So codependency undermines all relationships. This is because we have not formed a relationship with ourselves first. So you become number one in your life. Now I know that seems like selfish or people would say it's selfish to turn the whole ship around to how we've been conditioned. However, I know I am number one in my life now. I feel that makes me a happier person, a nicer person, and very, very importantly, a more honest person, which is actually more beneficial for the other people around me, whether they like it or not. Codependency destroys our self-esteem and self-confidence as we strive to be liked by others. Boy, oh boy, was I like this. I wanted everybody to like me. I was doing things outside of my values. You know why? Because I didn't like me. So we're turning the whole thing around, and the work is pointing into us. I don't want to do any work now that isn't looking inside, any work that looks on the outside for the answers, because I've tried all those tricks and they may work short term, but they don't work long term. It is our codependent nature that keeps us returning to food, alcohol, nicotine, work addiction, and drugs. Any form of addiction. We're a very, very addictive society. And codependency keeps us returning to unhealthy love relationships. I am a recovering relationship addict. My husband was my drug. Friendships, and even with family members. We can become codependent with family members just because they're family. We tend to look away at things that aren't actually serving us. As difficult as it may be to comprehend in that state, we are no different from a heroin addict living on the streets. We stare at them in dismay, wondering, how can they live like that? We think surely there's something they could do to help themselves. And yet we may be doing it in different areas of our own lives. But one, it's become normalized in life, so it looks like most people are doing it, so we don't feel as if we're doing it to that degree. As a codependent in that state, you might be walking around existing, but you're not living, you're not there. When I say that, what I mean is we're not there in our lives. I now look back and see how, even bringing up my children, I was physically there. They were well fed, they were beautifully dressed, they were attended school, I did all of those things, but in my head I wasn't emotionally there for them, and that's probably one of the biggest regrets I have. However, we can't do anything about the past, but we can do it now at the future, and change and become more and more available to people now that we perhaps thought we weren't. So there are just a few little things to start off the year with, again going back over what codependency is, and a few ideas. If you're like me, we all need constant reminders of this, because codependency, in my opinion, is epidemic out there, and it's insidiously normalized in our lives. So I hope that helps today. Remember this book. I think it's a great book. It's got good substance to it and good practical tips and tools. And you can get that at Amazon.com. So it's Emotional Sobriety, Finding the Raw Courage to Do Your Codependency Work. So please go there or reach out to me through my Facebook group, Power of No, Love and Relationship Addiction, or my website, rosalindsaunders.com. Thank you for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week.